Okay, we're live. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Um, I was just skimming through some headlines, and we got major fires burning right now in the Los Angeles metro area. 20 million people live down there. Paul Beckwith just posted another video on YouTube. I just glanced at the headline. More talk about the AMOC shutting down. The Atlantic Meridian overturning circulation. It's just words. It's just big words and acronyms, and people don't understand these things, and I don't expect them to. It's science, right? It's geology, geography, biology. Let's be real, all right? I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about things that people don't understand. I mean, I do talk about them, but what's the point? At this point, we kind of get it. I mean, we should. I mean, scientists definitely get it. Scientists get it. They have to continue investigating because that's their career path. These aren't gentlemen scientists. They're not, independent millionaires like scientists used to be back in the 1800s. Anybody doing science was, a wealthy landowner, owned businesses, and they did science on the side. And so these people can't do science on the side. This is their career, and they can't offend their bosses, which might be a government or might be a corporation, might be the oil company, right? So we have to keep looking at this. We have to keep researching this. We have to keep publishing papers. We have to keep getting PhDs. We have to keep earning tenure. We have to keep teaching classes. We have to keep, bringing in grants. We just have to keep on keeping on as scientists. So we're going to just, run out the clock investigating this thing. But that's not what we have to talk about anymore. We have to talk about that anymore. We are harming the Earth dynamic system. Harm may not be the right word. We are certainly experimenting with it. We're experimenting with the Earth dynamic system, and we are forcing the system into new dynamic equilibria, where dynamic is going to be the key word, all right? And equilibria is nice to have. We're not going to see equilibria in this Earth system, in this dynamic equilibrium system for, I don't know, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. Meanwhile, since humans have been on Earth, which maybe variously 300,000 years, right? Things were kind of predictable. And we had the ice ages, but even the ice ages were predictable. If you knew the mathematics of the Milankovitch cycles, you could have predicted the ice ages. Hell, in the 70s, they ended by the time the 70s rolled around, and I was, a young man, by the time the 70s roll around, scientists had enough computational power and enough understanding of astrophysics that they could actually say something like, wow, all these repeating ice ages, all these repeating glacial epochs that we've been going through. Hey, did you know there's a pattern? Did you know that we can kind of sort of predict them? And we're due for one. They were saying that in the 70s. And, the global heating deniers love to trot out that in the 70s, they had us headed for an ice age. Well, we were. We're not anymore. And a really good guess is really, it's not even a guess. It's almost like math. We'll never have another glaciation event ever. Quite possibly never. And maybe not for 10, 20 million years. Humans will be 10 million years extinct by the time there's another glacial epoch. It might even be 100 million years, because a lot has to happen before you can have another where the Earth starts to get cold enough that the Milankovitch cycles, which never go away, can cool enough Earth enough that actually ice can begin to encroach from the poles. So, the changes we're making, like, for example, making the Earth ice-free, which we're basically doing, raising the sea level by 270 feet, which we are going to do when the ice melts. And of course, all the time, we're lofting all this CO2 into the atmosphere, which is going to stay there. The way that CO2 is removed from the atmosphere is via rock weathering. This is mass wasting, tearing down mountains. It's just the ancient, slow, million years, plural, millions of years long process of breaking down rock and weathering it and absorbing the CO2 through carbonic acid formation. It just takes millions of years, hundreds of millions of years through that process to remove CO2. And we're not going to be removing CO2. That's just not going to happen. We can't do that. Oh, well, we'll figure it out. No, you won't. You say you're going to figure it out. You who and how are you going to do that? Right? Are you a physicist? Well, somebody will do it. How are they going to do that? Which laws of physics are they going to violate to pull that off? Well, maybe there's a way to do it. Maybe. In my opinion, you're saying maybe there is. And there's lots of people out there who want people to think that maybe there is. In my opinion, is no, there isn't. I'm a scientist and an engineer. I understand the physics of what they're proposing to do. No, you're not doing that. Well, you don't know that. Yes, I do. And they do too. They're just grifters and con artists. And they just want to keep you in the pipeline burning fossil fuels because that's how they make their money. They're just going to con you. They're just going to lie to you and con you. And then pretty soon they're going to say, well, actually, there wasn't any real way to do that. But by then, right, the damage is really done. And even the damage that we're doing now that people are just starting to wake up to, people are just starting to notice the Earth system is kind of fucked up right now. And we're just a little ways into this global heating climate change gambit. And the Earth system is already like out to murder us. And what's up with that? People told us we had hundreds of years before bad things would happen, which, by the way, shouldn't be any consolation at all. Well, we have a couple of generations before those generations are all murdered. That's okay, I guess, for some people. It's like being on the Titanic. Oh, well, we'll be okay for 100 miles. And then we're probably going to hit an iceberg and sink. But right now, don't worry about it. Is that how we're going to handle this? That in 100 years, we hit an iceberg and the ship sinks and takes everybody and everything with it? And that's okay? The changes we're making right now are permanent. Don't want to hear that. There you go. The changes we're making right now have released a billion, quadrillion, dazillion joules of energy. And to reverse the changes we've made, to pull all that CO2 out of the atmosphere, it's going to take the exact mirror image of that. A billion, trillion, gazillion joules of energy. Because that's how physics works. That's how it works, bitches. There's no free lunch. You got all this energy out of the coal, oil, and natural gas and release the CO2. Now you want to take the CO2 out of the atmosphere? Well, you're going to have to now recall all that energy to reverse the process. That's just how it works. Doesn't work another way. Or you can rely on 100 million years of weathering. Yeah, that will also do it. But that's not what people talk about. They talk about, oh, we'll just reverse this really soon. Or somebody will someday in some future generation of Einsteins will figure out how to violate the laws of physics and thermodynamics and the conservation of energy and matter. And they'll just figure all that with alien technology, right? And space flight and miracles and unicorns. They'll just figure it out. And then they'll solve the problem for themselves because we'll all be dead. We'll all be rich, had a great party, and we'll all be out of the picture. And future generations will have rooms full of Einsteins, big brain people, and they'll figure it out. And there'll be a miracle, and the aliens will land to give us a solution, and it's just going to be amazing because we're just going to violate the laws of physics, which were stupid anyway. Who needs laws of physics and conservation of energy? I mean, seriously, really? Do we really have to do that? Who wrote these laws anyway? These are stupid laws, and that's people's attitude. You got all this energy out of releasing the CO2 into the atmosphere from the fossil fuels. You're going to have to use the same amount of energy to get it all back. You don't want to hear that? Fine. Unsubscribe. Click away. Whatever. Not my problem. That's how it is. That's how the world actually works. That's how the cosmos actually works. That's how physics actually works. Chemistry and the whole thing. It takes energy to do shit. Reversible reactions are reversible at a cost. So we have to stop burning fossil fuels with immediate effect. That means today. If we can stop burning fossil fuels today, we still will have done enough damage to completely screw ourselves over for 1 million years. The AMOC is in the process of shutting down. That isn't going to stop. That's just current conditions. If we stop burning fossil fuels today with immediate effect and we don't put any more, not even one molecule more of CO2 in the atmosphere, Southern California will still be on fire. The AMOC will still be in the process of slowing down. Greenland is already in terminal decline. They're going to lose half or more of the ice before it's done. And that's like what, 20 meters, 60 feet of sea level rise on Greenland alone? Irreversible. You can't reverse ice loss. What are you talking about? You're just going to have new coastal real estate. That's all, and you'll be visiting Florida in a glass bottom boat. Oh, look, there's Florida down there, and I used to live right there. And look, there's that intersection we used to go to. See that ice cream store? It's all underwater now. Glass bottom boat. Greenland, and Greenland is in terminal decline. These are permanent changes. Permanent changes. These are permanent changes, and we haven't even seen. Well, we're just dipping our toe into this dangerous pool of changes that are now unavoidable and will become permanent. We've just dipped our toe in. There are fires all over the planet right now caused by global heating and climate change. The entire Amazon rainforest will burn to cinders. Something else will come in its place. I don't know, maybe a savanna, if we're lucky, a savanna, probably more likely, just a desert. The plants won't have time to grow. It'll be too hot. There won't be any rain because the rainforest makes its own weather, including the rain. So there won't be any rain, and the Amazon rainforest will be gone. The rain will be gone with it, and you'll have barren dirt that has 2 inches deep because there's no dirt in the Amazon. It's just leaves and bushes, and the minerals go away immediately because of the rain. Just washes them out to sea. So there'll be 2 inches of actual dirt in the Amazon, and it'll be 110 degrees, just like it is in North Africa at the same latitude. It'll be 120 degrees and no soil and no water. And you think you're going to green the Amazon after that? No, these are irreversible changes once they happen. Once they happen, they're permanent. And no, they don't reverse. And you can't reverse them because you can't do that. This is what we call path dependency. The Amazon rainforest, the Atlantic overturning circulation, these are all path dependent. Once they're done, you have to reproduce the entire actual path that brought them into place in the first place. And the Amazon rainforest came about through tens, if not hundreds of million years of biospheric evolution, successional steps. And this plant came in, and then that plant came in, and then there was an ice age, and these animals came in, and the seeds and the flowers and everything had to come in stages. And then finally you get a rainforest. You don't just get a rainforest because you throw rainforest plant seeds out there, especially not if there's 2 inches of dirt and there's no rain. That's not how you do it. I mean, you think that's how you do it. We'll just replant the Amazon. No, you won't. It's path dependent. It created itself over time, and you're going to have to let that process happen again over time. And do you really have 10 million years to nurture the Amazon rainforest back? Because that's what it'll take. And what about the AMOC circulation that is constantly a threat for shutting down? There's a death watch on the AMOC. And how will that ever get restarted? Ever? It's impossible to conceive. I don't even understand how it got started in the first place. No one knows these things. You're going to have to reproduce the pathway of getting this thing bootstrapped. It's a quadrillion, billion, thousand, million, quadrillion gallons of water. How are you going to get that shit moving? What do you think is going to happen when it shuts down? It's gone. That's what happens. I mean, something else will come along, but it'll be different. It'll be a new aspect of the earth dynamic system. Something will be moving, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it never comes. Maybe nothing ever comes back. But the thing that we know that happens now, when it shuts down, it's gone, baby. You don't jumpstart that. And if there's any kind of path dependency to how it was jump started in the first case 100 million years ago, then you're going to have to figure that out. And you're going to what? Now you're going to engineer that? You're going to engineer the entire earth dynamic system to reboot the AMOC? What are you smoking? When it's gone, It's gone. And if that's bad, then that's bad forever. We don't even know. Well, we can guess. People will tell you, oh, yes, right. The warm water that's being carried from the equatorial regions off the in the Caribbean and off the North American eastern seaboard has been transported up past Greenland, down past the uh, Scandinavian countries, down into the English Channel, and past the UK and past Northern Europe, and that warm water brings them their temperate climate and probably some of their rain is coming. Well, rain always comes from the ocean. So unless you have a really big body of water like the Great Lakes, rain comes from the ocean as well as snow. So they'll get cooler because the warm water isn't making that loop anymore. Cold water will come down from the Arctic, and cold water doesn't generate moisture. So the rain and the snow and they're both very useful. High altitude snow melts, right, and gives most of the major rivers their tributaries. So you'll get less precipitation, more cold. It'll be dry cold, just like cold always is. And you'll have dry cold, and Europe will turn into whatever it turns into, right? An icy, frigid, barren landscape with 500 million people. And that's not going to work. And that will be permanent. So we're just going to blithely allow the AMOC to shut down, which right now, we can't even do it. We can't even stop it. We can't even stop that from happening. If the AMOC is really shutting down, then it's shutting down, period. We can stop burning fossil fuels today. And we've already screwed up the system enough that the AMOC, which is being threatened right now, will shut down. And then we'll have, it'll be gone. And it's gone permanently. And the CO2 we're putting in the atmosphere every single day, again, the number is we are extracting from the earth every single day 100 million barrels of oil every single day. And we're not storing that except temporarily. We're burning every day 100 million barrels of oil. We burn every single day 100 million barrels of oil. A barrel is like 40 gallons. 100 million barrels a day, daily, not annually, not quarterly, daily. We take the stuff out of the ground and set it on fire. And that's just the crude oil. I'd have to look up the numbers for natural gas. I'd have to look up the numbers for coal. Oh, but we're not burning as much coal as we used to. Who cares? Every ton of coal that you burn lofts CO2 in the atmosphere, which remains there essentially forever, except for weathering that slowly removes it over tens of hundreds of millions of years. So that's what we're doing. Every single day we do this right now today. Every single day. And every day that we burn 100 million barrels of oil, plus the natural gas, plus the coal, that's probably what, 1,000 years of weathering every day? It's probably not 1,000. Every day, 10 years. I'm just guessing. Okay, I'm just weighing magnitudes. All right, I'm just in my head. I'm weighing the magnitudes. Every day that we burn 100 million barrels of oil, plus the other things here and that and everything, and also cutting down the forests and setting those on fire, that also contributes. Every day that we do that creates 10 years of harm. It's going to take 10 years for nature to repair that using weathering and similar things. So every day we dig ourselves 10 years deeper into the hole. Wow. So 10 days, we dig ourselves a century into harm. It'll take a century to revert the changes that we caused after 10 days of just doing what people are doing, just driving around and flying and moving goods and moving money and, getting rich and having jobs and, Disneyland, the whole thing. Every day we do that. It's probably 10 years that we have to undo. Well, we won't undo it. Of course, nature will undo it, but someone's going to undo it. And maybe it gets undone in 10 years. Every day. We do enough of this to cause 10 years of backlog. Now, there's probably a real number out there somewhere, and I'm sure someone can look it up, but I'm trying to deal with orders of magnitude here, okay? I'm trying to set expectations. because 100 million years is a long time to get back to normal. And our normal, it has to be said, our normal, which we are currently right now in an interglacial. We are between glacial maxima, okay? And yes, it's the Milankovitch cycles. It's a bunch of other things too. It's even the positioning of the continents, right? For any of this to really happen, a lot of things had to happen in this kind of path dependency. This had to happen, and that had to happen, and this had to happen. And boom. Okay, now we have ice ages, glacial epochs. And so we're in a current glacial minimum. The ice has retreated, and we're supposed to go into another glacial maximum. But if we unwind that, and different papers will tell you that we are probably we have probably instigated what they call a termination event, that we have terminated the well, it's at least 3 million, and possibly, depending how you measure ice ages, it could be even 20 million. A 3 to 20 million year period of glacial events, one strung after the other, okay? Oscillating in and out of glacial maxima, in and out of glacial minima, 3 to 5 to maybe 20 million years of that. We are now in a termination event. All that millions of years of going in and out of ice ages, that's probably done. That's done. And we haven't even started the process of getting ourselves off of fossil fuels. No one's even talking about it. I'm the only one talking about it. I mean, really, even among all the activists and all the pundits and all the YouTubers and all the talking heads and all the everybody, I'm probably the only person on the internet saying this. Get off of fossil fuels. Do it now. Immediately. Take your hit. If it means people starve them. If it means people don't have electricity, do without. Figure your shit out. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do without fossil fuels. We need to figure that out right now. We need to start thinking about that. Oh, man, you got to start thinking about that because let me tell you, at some point, one of two things is going to happen. There's only two ways forward. At some point, we've got this one path we're on right now, which is burn, baby, burn. Dig up the fossil fuels, set them on fire. Do the work, make the money, get rich, move the goods, do the manufacturing, whatever you're going to do. And here's the path we're on. We're on like an arrow. We're on this path, right? But pretty soon we're going to reach a fork in the road. And there might not even be a choice. I mean, the period of choosing which fork we want to be on. In fact, we may have reached the fork in the road sometime in the past and we don't even know it. But let's just pretend, just to be optimistic, not that I have any evidence either way, but just to be optimistic and assume that the fork in the road is actually in our future. Okay. So, and let's assume that we recognize that there's a fork in the road, and the two forks from the one path of just go, baby, go, burn, 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 burn. Then the fork in the road is, all right, well, that was fun. Now we have to make a choice. We either choose to stop burning fossil fuels and do that immediately or over a certain period of time, and everyone agrees, and we all agree on the time, and we all agree on how we're going to do it, and we all agree that we're going to suffer, and we all agree to try and minimize the suffering. We're going to do this. It's a big project. We deliberately agree to do this, and everybody agrees to do this, and no one's going to be bent out of shape because we do this. Okay, we're just doing this, and we're going to take our hit. Whatever that hit is, we've reached the fork in the road, and we're going to choose to do something. And I call this choosing a controlled demolition. What's being demolished? The human world in its entirety. And a big component of the human world right now is 8,000 million humans. That's 8 billion. 8,000 million humans. That's a big part of the human world. And when we choose, after not choosing anything, straight as an arrow, burn, baby, burn, okay? When we choose to stop burning fossil fuels and turn them off, leave them in the ground. No, you don't get any. You don't get any. I don't get any. We're leaving it in the ground. It's in the ground. The earth gets the fossil fuels. That's where they are. That's where they stay. We're not have no excuses. Maybe we'll implement that over a period of years, maybe 5, maybe 10. But that at the end of that period, the fossil fuels belong to the earth, and that's where they stay. That's a decision we could make. That's one of the forks in the road. After burn, 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 we get to the fork in the road and we can choose not to burn. Leave them in the ground. There you go. Or the other fork in the road, the other fork we could take is burn, 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 burn. So which choice do you think they're I mean, those are the two choices. There is no third choice. You'll say, well, we could innovate. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, that's what you're talking about right now. You're going to innovate. I want to see it. Show me. Show me. Show me some innovation, okay? You got nothing? Fine. Then let's go back to the real discussion here, okay? You're going to get to a fork in the road. You're either going to choose a controlled demolition or you're going to choose the alternative to a controlled demolition, which is an uncontrolled demolition. No, no, we're just going to burn fossil fuels and we're going to raise all the boats and we're going to, give every child a pony and burn, baby, burn, burn, burn. Okay, well, then at some point, the planet is just so fucking hot, so uninhabitable from all the CO2 emissions and the ice has been melting and the sea level has been rising. And of course, most of our oil facilities are on the coastlines. And of course, they'll be under 100 feet of water or 200 feet or 300 feet. And what are you doing? You're drilling rigs. You have to keep drilling new holes and putting new rigs on, and the water keeps rising. And then at the same time that's happening, it's getting hotter than hell on land. It's, the nighttime temperatures are 120 degrees and daytime temperatures are 140, just about everywhere. And as a result of all this heat, all this energy, you've got storms that you can't even comprehend. You can't, it's impossible. It's impossible. We have category 5 hurricanes pretty regularly, but the secret is it's category 5 plus. There's no upper limit. So there has actually been some category 6 hurricanes out there, and they just call them category 5 because category 5 is actually category 5 and up. There's some talk about creating a category 6, and they're not doing it because they don't need to. We'll just call them category 5. Yeah, but they're 300 mile an hour winds or 350 mile an hour. It's 159 miles per hour and up is category 5. That 159 miles per hour and up is category 5. So that counts. It's above 159 miles per hour, the winds. So it's category 5. Meanwhile, the winds are 350 miles an hour and you're not ready. They say there's a category 5 hurricane coming ashore and you think you're going to board up your windows with plywood and sit inside your business or your home with your rubbing your lucky rabbit's foot that it doesn't hit you. And meanwhile, when it finally comes through, it's 1,200 miles across. The winds are 350 miles an hour and it just slabs everything, takes everything off at the foundation slab. And you're in there, and until your walls collapse and you float away as a corpse. You thought you understood what a category 5 hurricane was. And they're sneaking a fast one over on you. Category 5 hurricanes can now be 350 miles an hour. Because that's what's happening. Because of all the energy, because of all the heat. Yeah, you can do that. That can happen. That's probably, that's absolutely inevitable. Absolutely inevitable. That's probably inevitable even now that we're going to have these category 5 hurricanes that people think they understand. And they just have no comprehension of what's coming. Just none. No comprehension of any kind. And they'll never understand that they didn't understand. People will never understand that they didn't understand because they'll be dead. And that condition never changes. That condition never changes. Storms and heat waves so cataclysmic that parts of the planet become either temporarily or permanently uninhabitable. And that's permanent. What today we call a disaster will become the permanent situation. Now, when all your hurricanes are suddenly category 5, which is really categories 5, 6, 7, and 8 all combined together because it's category 5 and up, category 5 and up, 159 miles per hour and up, and up, and up. And so when you're getting these storms that cannot even be categorized, that's a permanent disaster. And people won't even call it a disaster at that point because disasters are something that happen once in a while. But if this is now your life, then you can't really call it a disaster. It's your life. The heat waves don't go away. It won't be that we have temporary heat waves. We have temporary waves of something that isn't trying to kill you. We have weeks of temporary coolness. And then the heat wave comes back because that's now normal. And the heat wave is not a disaster. It's just normality. And that's why these parts of the earth that are going to experience these heat waves from global heating, because that's what it is. It's not climate change, it's global heating. And when the heat comes from these areas, and sets fire to all the forests and makes all the machinery unusable and cuts, shuts down the electrical grid from the heat, and everyone's air conditioning fails and everyone dies of heat prostration. And the hospitals, even everyone in the hospitals die, even including the doctors and the nurses, and everyone's dead, and they all die. Is that a disaster? No, because that's happening everywhere all the time. You won't even call it that. And the news won't even report these events because they're not newsworthy, because they're not disasters. It's reality. And the governments of the world, the wealthy governments of the world, the northern, wealthy, white governments of the world, won't even allow you to know. They won't even report it. They won't even be in the news. There'll be laws passed that you can't talk about this. You think they won't do that? Absolutely, they'll do that. They'll make it a felony. They'll make it a treason to talk about entire nations of people dying. They'll make it treason. They'll say you're just a fearmonger, you're just a doomer, you're just trying to, stampede people into overthrowing their governments and trying to, solve their problem. So you're treasonous. We can't have you talking like that. So here's a guillotine for you. Here's a hangman's noose. You're talking about global heating or climate change. You're talking about all the people that died in Africa this year, all the tens of millions and hundreds of millions. You're talking about the fact that there's nobody alive north of the equator for 30 degrees of latitude. It's true, of course, there's nobody alive, but you're talking about that. Well, that's treason. We have a hangman's noose for you. And we got 50 others to hang today for saying the same thing, for being alarmed and scared. And this is permanent. That too becomes permanent. The hangman's noose becomes permanent. The spectacle of hanging people who panic and want changes becomes permanent. Permanent. And you won't be in a disaster. You'll be in a situation, but you can't solve your situation. And you won't have a problem either. Because when you call it a problem, that kind of implies a solution. And you can't have a problem because there is no solution. So it's not a problem, almost by definition. And this situation becomes permanent, at least over human generational timescales, and maybe even over the entirety of our involved existence on Earth. It's permanent and could drive us to extinction if we're not really, really abundantly careful. And if the rich people don't really seriously get themselves out of the way of this steamroller and very, very seriously start thinking about where they're going to survive, which island inside the Arctic Circle is they're going to buy so they can start now, right? Because you're going to have to start soon, creating agricultural lands and nuclear power plants, and that's going to be their island, and they're going to defend it. And they're going to have their own navy, and they're going to have, the handpicked people to work for them, and and then the billionaires mostly, will be living north of the Arctic Circle, surrounded by ocean, and fending off the refugees, and I don't know, using nuclear weapons. Who knows what they're going to do? They'll use nuclear weapons and they'll nuke the big cities that are left on the mainland just so those people never come for them. This is a permanent situation. Yes, I'm a fiction writer. Yes, I write science fiction. I have an active imagination, but I'm also a scientist. I know where this shit's headed. I know where this is headed. And Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they know too. They're already surrounding themselves with advisors. Okay, well, what should I do? Should I buy a mega yacht? Something as big as a battleship so I can live on my mega yacht and have hydroponics? How am I going to do this? How am I going to feed myself? Do I need to buy land in the Arctic Circle? Do I need to buy, the northern parts of Canada? There's an archipelago up there. There's a lot of islands. I could buy a whole bunch of islands and have my own nation state up there and, create agriculture and have nuclear power and make my own bridges between my own islands. And I got billions of dollars. I could easily do that. Should I do that now? Right now? Should I do that? Is it too soon? Do I do it before the Russians move in? Do I do it before the Chinese move in? Because I'll have to fight the Russians and the Chinese, and they got nuclear weapons. How about if I just get up there and establish myself and then, at least I'm in. Should I do it now? Should I sell all my Amazon shares and sell all my Twitter shares and get it out of Tesla and take all my money and go up into the far north and buy a bunch of islands from Canada and start digging? Is now the time? Because this is a permanent situation. This is going to be a permanent. It's never going to stop. And it's only going to get worse every day. I mean, the Musks and the Bezoses of the world have these conversations. They got people who come in and talk to them. I would talk to them. I tell them, you got you got a real problem. I shouldn't call it a problem because problem implies solution, and you don't have any solutions. You just got to get out of the way. This dumpster fire, no one's putting this out. You got to get out of the way. That would be my advice. Now, I'm saying all that on here. I'm giving away free advice. Uh, Whatever. Yeah, can you take advantage of this advice? Advice? Well, if you're no better off than I am, then no, you can't. But you need to understand that what's coming for you is permanent. There's no escaping this. And we're going to go down the road straight as an arrow, burn, 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 burn the fossil fuels, and we're going to get to that decision point. And maybe, this is a big maybe, this is a big if. Maybe the leaders of the world will give you that choice. Do you want a controlled demolition or an uncontrolled demolition? They may even put it to a vote. They may poll the people and ask them, which would you rather do? Buckle down now and take your hit and stop burning fossil fuels and hope for the best, and create villages of people who are resilient and give them the equipment and the tools and the knowledge they need to grow their own crops and have their own domesticated animals, and give them some machinery, make sure they have water, dig wells if we have to, pull up the asphalt, pull up the concrete, controlled demolition. Or do you just want to party on? They might ask you that. They may give that to you that way. Or they may decide themselves. They could decide themselves. They don't need you. They don't really need you. They're ones in control. And they could decide on a controlled demolition. Do you think they're going to tell you that? No. Because they need you to keep keeping on. They need you to behave. And if they choose just to take an uncontrolled demolition, do you think they're going to tell you that? No, of course not. Because an uncontrolled demolition is basically almost an extinction event. And a controlled demolition might also be an extinction event. This is not a problem with solutions. This is not a problem at all. If it's any kind of a problem, it's a wicked problem. It's a wicked problem. A problem that has no solutions. Oh, there's lots of things you can do, but none of them are solutions. They just put you in a slightly different wicked problem. And the controlled demolition and the uncontrolled demolition are not solutions. They're just pathways. You can go this way, or you can go that way. Either way, you're going to lose civilization. You're going to lose a lot of technology. You're going to lose all your comforts, and you might even lose some or most or all of your human beings, whichever path you take. And at the end of that path, you're still going to be on an uninhabitable planet. But if you choose a controlled demolition, maybe you have a chance with encouragement and funding and whatever else you have to create village life, where some people will do really well if they get lucky. Or if you choose the uncontrolled demolition, then no one gets to do anything. And you really have to be lucky, because there's no help and there's no guidance and there's no leadership and there's no assistance and there's no backstop and there's no life preserver and there's no lifeboat. It's just an uncontrolled demolition. Basically, everybody jumps off the Titanic into the freezing water and maybe one person survives. Maybe. How did they even do that? I don't know. Somehow they survive. Maybe a whale comes up and picks them up on its back and takes them to New York. I mean, some kind of a miracle happens that everyone jumps off the Titanic into the freezing water and one person survives. Yeah, that's an uncontrolled demolition. A controlled demolition is you do everything you can to try and save as many people as you can. And you try and enable them to then take care of themselves, because they're not going to have civilization anymore. They're not going to have plumbing and sewer treatment and electricity and electric lights and technology. And they're not going to have any of that, because that's modernity. And you can't have modernity without fossil fuels. I got work to do. That's all I want to say about that. Leave me a comment if you think there's another way out. I've just given my scenario about there being a fork in the road, uncontrolled demolition versus a controlled demolition. Do you think there's a third way? Be specific, because I'd like to know. And what kind of controlled demolition would you like to see? Yeah, we're going to have to surrender to demolition. And well, okay, fine. So now that we've surrendered to that, how should that look? What should that look like? What's our goals? Well, what are our primary objectives, right? If it's going to be controlled, then we can have plans. What should the plans be? I don't know. Village life, I guess. That's all only I can come up with. But maybe, Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. Okay, well, that's a kind of controlled demolition. Jeff Bezos, maybe he wants to live on a super yacht. big as a battleship with cannons. Okay, that's another type of solution. What about the rest of us? What should we be doing? I don't pretend to have all the answers because, once again, I don't think there is much we can do. We're just, some of it is we have to do what we can, whatever that is, on an individual level. And then we have to get lucky. Well, that's also permanent. Every day, you're going to have to get lucky. Every day. Some people will extend their luck through planning and collaboration with others, and some people won't have any luck. They'll be by themselves. They won't have a community. They won't have resources, and their luck runs out. So it's too bad if that's all we have is going for us is luck. But if that's the case, then so be it. So leave your comments down below. How do you think we can pull this out? And also, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. We can get these messages out to more people because we're going to have to make some changes real fast. And there are not many people talking about this but me. I'm it. I am the prophet of doom or something. Well, if that's what it is, so be it. Be careful how you label things. What am I really here doing? What am I really doing?